Welcome to Running It Back, the GOAT Show, GOAT Pod 2020. Who is the greatest of all time? Tarlin Ray is joining me. Tarlin, what are your thoughts?
I was trying to make a goat sound. I was trying to think of one.
Is that a bat? No, it's a sheep. It's kind of in the
Yeah,
neighborhood.
exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
doing great. Although my kids are too old, so I've forgotten goat sounds.
Yeah.
Most people will think we're one-trick ponies because we're about to cover the NBA, the GOAT version of the NBA, but we're just trying to put a capper to the 2020 season, although I've heard the season may run it back in December, which
Yeah.
and the veterans will revolt. But we want to get a chance coming off this Lakers championship to see where LeBron fits in this GOAT debate.
In the pantheon. Yeah. So we'll be a one-trick GOAT as opposed to a one-trick pony. Yeah. So
much swifter. He on the East Coast, me on the West Coast. You guys had 3-hour advantage of
so you could just mainline coffee all day. That's how you get the edge over here. But yeah, man. So we broke down the bubble. We did our bubble wrap show. That was the last time we caught up, where we did just try to put the bubble to rest. But now we've had a week or two since then. Time to let it sink in. Time to reflect on the pantheon, the all-time greats. And to your point, I think we may do GOAT shows about other things besides basketball in the future. But this GOAT pod is about basketball. And the main tete-a-tete, if you will, that we're thinking about these days is one Michael Jordan and one LeBron James. Something that really came about right around the time when LeBron was entering the league. Would he be the chosen? He was called the chosen one. In many ways,
at 16.
At 16. In many ways, he did deliver on that promise to at least be in the conversation. And then we also wanted to reflect back, since it is running it back, who are the other folks who might be in that conversation? And recency bias, of course, yeah. And then, like I said, I'm going to keep giving the nod to Game of Zones. Again, spoiler alert, but they had a nice parallel to the end of Game of Thrones, where just like Bran, again, spoiler alert, if you haven't watched the end of Game of Thrones,
I haven't watched it. Why are you talking about this? Go ahead.
Bran winds up winning the Game of Thrones, and Paul Pierce winds up being the GOAT in the final episode of Game of Zones. So what's fun about the GOAT conversation is that you can make arguments for just about anybody, but today we wanted to focus on the argument for LeBron and then still the argument for Michael Jordan as the greatest. But where do you want to start?
I think let's just put it for folks.
Yeah.
I know that there are several Knicks, Willis Reed.
Yeah.
Phil Jackson.
Yeah. John
Starks.
Charles Oakley, arguably the GOAT enforcer, right?
Oh.
You know?
No, that was pre-GOAT. That was just high scoring Michael, and then he got traded.
But then he maintained the enforcer role.
For who was good on the
Knicks? For the 90s
This
Knicks.
is where we go downhill. We got to stick it.
Yeah, I'll clean it all up in post. Don't worry about it. Let's get back to it, though. Yeah.
We need to we'll have Jordan.
Yeah.
LeBron.
Uh-huh.
And if we have to make sure we look at NBA history, we have to talk about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Bill Russell.
Yeah. And
Do you have anyone else that you believe should find their way into this GOAT conversation?
George Mikan was clearly dominant.
Dominant for the Minneapolis.
Right.
Lakers.
I mean, I remember.
That's why we have 17 championships. We have to add up Minneapolis.
Exactly. I've heard a lot of angry Celtics fans claim you only have 12, but that's a whole other rabbit hole to get into. But no, I like your list. I think it's a fair reckoning. But again, you get into the greatest scorer of all time, or the greatest dunker of all time, or there are plenty of GOATs, but you're just saying the greatest pure NBA career player performance, general rule, the best players. You're saying those four. I think I understand where you're coming from, and I just want to make sure I understand the rationale behind each.
But let's make sure it's not just player performance, because Bill Russell, Kareem, and I'm actually going high school on.
Oh, you're counting the entire oeuvre.
Right.
Yeah.
Impact on the court, impact off court.
Okay.
Even a little IMDb We got Kareem and Airplane, still one of the
well, hang
greatest.
on, but then you want me to say Wilt though, because Wilt's performance in the Conan movie was transcendent.
Ask for your four.
Yeah.
It's just one of the things that we're going to be measuring against.
Yeah.
Impact on court, impact off the court.
Mm-hmm.
Broadly, we look at championships,
mm-hmm.
MVPs.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that should be all part of the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And if you were to do your own matrix to say 1 high, 4 the low, would Michael end up on top?
Mm-hmm.
Granted, we just had the last dance. That's the reason Running It Back was spawned in the first place. It gave us an opportunity to talk about that show.
Correct.
Still one of the best commercials ever for a single player I've ever seen as the producer of his of his own content.
Right.
A guy who has probably the most catchy jingle in the world for a commercial. Can you sing it?
Sometimes I dream that he is me. Yeah.
See, right?
It is
six-time champion, 6-time finals MVP, 6-0 in the finals.
Yeah.
It's got to be about the shoes.
And then to your point, in terms of his oeuvre, he did win in college.
Once.
Yeah.
He was cut from his high school team.
Mm-hmm.
Just want to remember that.
But is that more support for his goathood in that he was able to rise up?
Rise like a phoenix.
Yeah.
Rise up. So he's got an interesting, he continues to have an impact just on basketball culture.
Yeah.
With his Jordan brand.
Mm-hmm.
One of the only player to go from player to owner.
Mm-hmm.
Now is a NASCAR owner. Mm-hmm. So his broad impact on
cultural relevance,
basketball, his Jumpman logo, probably the best dunk contest ever against Dominique Wilkins. Although Dominique Vance, he probably won, but the second greatest dunk contest was Vince Carter.
Right.
That's Jordan.
Yeah.
Anything else to add to the Jordan ledger? I think we all live in a Jordan world. We grew up with Jordan.
Jordan's cultural relevance, the 6-0 record in the finals. Jordan takes a bit of a ding for the late career stuff, where the stuff with the Wizards, not necessarily at the Pantheon level, although he was certainly solid when he came back. But I think the interesting comparison for me is not so much LeBron, it's Bill Russell to Jordan, because it was more of a volume play when it comes to Bill Russell. 2 championships in college and more
San Francisco Dons.
For San Francisco, exactly. The Dons. And then also I think his ability to overcome the climate in which he was elevating himself. So obviously he had Red Auerbach on his side to help him elevate to the level that he did, but to do what he did, to be as dominant a player as he was in as tumultuous a time as the 60s,
and
is where in Boston,
11 championships in 13 years, 12-time All-Star, 5-time MVP,
and he won as a player coach too, which is a whole. So the only reason you can pull Russell back down to the pack, although I did actually meet him once, and the dude is freaking tall, but the only reason you can pull Russell back is that he played in a different era, and aside from his matchups with Wilt, where Wilt was a perfect foil, just all about his own stats, generally not a winner when it came to the championships, and
winner in other places.
Clean
it up in post.
He's tallying some stats. He wins on the numbers game, but I would say to me it would be Jordan. Then I put Bill Russell. Then to me the LeBron is flirting with the captain now, like him, and then. There are other players you could add depending on how you think about their influence on the game when they were at their height. So like in an individual season. So Larry Bird in 86 is something that will always be remembered. Magic in 80. There were some moments in time that will elevate maybe the rest of the Pantheon up. So if you want to count like the top 10 greatest basketball players of all time, I think you could start to bring some other folks in. But I think if you accept that it's really all about winning the chip, I think it's the percentage of opportunities that they closed on I'd put Jordan and Bill Russell right up next to each other. And I probably give the nod to Russell just because he was he was a little more of a team guy. It didn't have to be about him. So I'd probably go Russell, Jordan, Kareem, LeBron. I think that's where I would go. That's where.
Let's chip away at Russell a little bit, who had a massive impact off the court.
Mm-hmm.
But the dude shot 44%.
Mm-hmm.
He was like 5 feet taller than everyone else.
He wasn't much of a shooter.
Dominant on defense. 22, obviously,
Yeah.
win championships, about winning. But I was just surprised when I actually looked that up. So,
Wow. Yeah.
And look at your game in Hollywood, man. He only had 7 credits, and a little light there.
There was no there was no 60s equivalent to Space Jam.
There was no 60s Space Jam.
Yeah.
So interesting.
Yeah.
Can we go to the captain for a moment?
Please. The captain, meaning Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, born Lou Alcindor.
Former Lou Alcindor.
Product of I believe, the metropolis known as New York City.
New York City talent.
New York City talent.
You silly Bruins never paid their players to go all the way across the country to win.
You also had.
We never had a booster. You
arguably had the GOAT coach in John Wooden, though, right? So, like, separate conversation.
We were paying our players. So I want to make sure that's clear.
Okay, that's helpful. But also
pyramid of success.
Pyramid of success.
Pyramid of money.
But yeah, so Kareem.
71 straight wins in high school.
Mm-hmm.
Could not play as a freshman. 3 straight championships in college. Comes into college as a sophomore, and they outlaw the dunk. His own signature shot in the skyhook. Unstoppable, left and right.
Yeah.
Which people still, you would think, the person who is the all-time leader in scoring in the NBA, you would say, maybe I should copy that dude's shot.
Yeah.
Nope.
Inimitable.
Oh, big word.
Yeah,
you're going to try to spell that while we're on
air. Yeah.
Twice, 2 times, he's won a championship with 2 franchises. Right. 6-time MVP. 2 times final MVP. He is probably one of the most dominant basketball records. People don't realize how good he was on defense off 11-time all defense.
Mm-hmm.
Magic, if I'm not mistaken, never won a championship without the captain.
Mm-hmm.
So Kareem never gets his due. Mm-hmm. He boycotted the Olympics. Yeah. Effectively didn't try out for it in '68.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was tight. He was tight with truly the greatest of all time, Muhammad Ali, back in the day.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So coming up once again, similar to Russell in a different era. Very similar. Russell, surly guy.
Yeah.
So if Mike is gonna be on McDonald's commercials and Gatorade, Kareem was not, which is why I thought his cameo as the co-pilot in Airplane was one of the famous moments in his career.
Although interestingly, he's surly when he's actually in the role of Kareem, where he's talking about how he's carrying Lampier up and down the court. Yeah,
author. Mm-hmm. I actually have one of his books that I read to my girls when they were growing up, just about Black inventors and putting a poster on a wall to let kids know that Blacks across history have been scientists and technologists.
Yeah.
So he's had an impact broadly. I think he just gets forgotten.
Well, he also, like, we did a show on Mahmoud Abdul Rauf, one of my favorite shows that we've done so far, and Rauf's on fire.
Sorry.
But Kareem had a little bit of that in him too, and that he was very much about his beliefs and his conscience and acting in accordance with his conscience, and he wasn't about quote unquote selling out. He was much more about being true to his beliefs, probably at the expense of his broader commercial appeal. Although, yeah, if you haven't seen Airplane, you should just see it anyway. But if you haven't seen it and you're an NBA fan, you should see it for Kareem's stunning performance. It was a cinematic tour de force.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
So, let's not forget the 39 credits across his IMDb page, whether it's as a cameo. So once again, but Kareem, I think, will always be held back because of his relationship with the media.
Mhm.
I do think gentle giants, guys are 7'1", 7'4",
Yeah.
that the broad audience has a hard time relating to them in the same way.
Yeah, I'm 6. Like you may not hear it through my voice, but I'm 6'3". People don't understand how hard it is.
Yeah, you can feel it as the
be
guttural
tall.
just flows through the mic.
I know. But as you get taller, the things that you run up against in this life, it is actually true, though. I think there is a sense that you can't coach height, but height is also not necessarily equated with talent. So if Kareem were shorter, how amazing would he be? Which is why when you think about the purest expression of basketball, you do think about a smaller, more athletic swingman who that really gets more in the LeBron versus Michael conversation, which also I think is a relevant current conversation too, where it does allow us to get into the 90s versus the current NBA, which is also an interesting question. At least they both had 3-pointers, but that wasn't really so much the way in which it was used back in Jordan's day is very different than it is today. But what about the bake-off between LeBron and Jordan? Because that's really
one more thing.
Please.
Just the one thing you have to say about Kareem, because you talked about the beauty of sport and what happens if he was what would we be like if he was shorter?
Mm-hmm.
Is there's just an elegance to his skyhook that didn't require brute strength. It required a lot of finesse. So let's just not forget that.
He's kind of like a gazelle. He was a graceful, almost balletic. The skyhook is almost a balletic move, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He's the early Hakeem with the footwork down low.
Yes. Oh, the dream. Also, got to be top 10, but the separate conversation.
Totally separate conversation.
Yeah. But anyway, so we're getting back to now.
LeBron.
We've dispensed with the amenities. We've done our lists. There's the problem of presentism. You can't compare Russell before the 3-pointer. Yada, you get into this, you get into that. The conversation that's blowing up on social media, if you hadn't heard, maybe you should ask someone, or maybe you should just listen to the show, is who's the greatest of all time? Is it LeBron? Is it Michael? Are you hashtag team LeBron? Are you hashtag team Michael? You're making more of a case for LeBron's relevance in this conversation. So I'd love to hear a little more from you on this.
People would start here. Michael's 6-0 in the championship.
Yeah.
LeBron has 6 losses in championship.
And
they would end the conversation there.
Done. Drop the mic. That's your 8-mile moment.
4-6. He's got 4 championships with 3 teams. And took Cleveland.
This is for you, Cleveland.
Took Cleveland to a championship. Cleveland of the Craig Elo, Mark Price, Jordan putting a dagger in that franchise, and they weren't relevant in Cleveland.
Yeah, because Cleveland was bigger than even the NBA. It's just cursed sports town, period.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Finer, like Cleveland. Now, I guess the Indians won. Did the Indians win one pre-Major League or post? They at least had some of Charlie Sheen's greatest cinematic work. And Wesley Snipes.
Excuse me. Yes, of course. Yeah.
LeBron, 2 Olympic gold medals, 8 consecutive finals, oftentimes dragging guys that do not belong in the finals there.
Yeah.
13th first team, 5 defensive. He's just an all-world player on the court, climbing the all-time points, all-time assists, led the league in assists as a 6'8" point forward this year for his first time.
Has never missed a playoff game due to injury.
Never missed a playoff game. And so you would say he's an all-time gamer on the court. There are moments off the court. So if it's Jordan and gambling, you have LeBron in the decision.
Right.
That wasn't over the top, but he actually shook up the NBA and the way that players think about the power of the owners and power of the players.
Yeah.
He was a prep to pro guy. So I went to see, and we were in another pod, LeBron play in high school. He was must see TV, must see in person, and also all world wide receiver.
Yeah.
For his team.
I think he probably would have wound up a tight end, but yeah.
Probably.
Who knows?
Sorry,
Who knows?
No, he played wide receiver, I thought. But maybe it's not. While Michael was cut from his team as a sophomore, LeBron was deemed the chosen one at 16.
Yeah, right.
And all he's done is deliver.
Yeah.
LeBron brought social consciousness into the NBA. LeBron stood up there with Chris Paul and Dwayne Wade and Carmelo Anthony at the ESPYs and talked about social injustice and talked about police brutality. He talked about Tamir Rice.
Yeah.
So LeBron, and then we have to add just LeBron has his own production company. So then he's going to amp beyond. If it's Hollywood and your ability to move beyond the sport, he's already doing that in his career, while also bringing along his four horsemen, the guys that he played with in high school, and creating a better life for them.
Yeah.
So
I think a lot of it's going to hinge on how amazing this next Space Jam movie is going to be.
So I think there's where LeBron, there's just a chink. That's where you start to chip away at him, which is Space Jam 2. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah.
That then you flip flop. Are we back to Jordan? But I just want to make sure people don't recognize just how nice you see it in Tiger. You saw moments in Jordan, but how unbelievable a talent he is at 35 now, coming on 36, and that we are lucky to watch this happen.
Yeah.
Complete stat stuffer, not a one-dimensional player. And if you talk about greatest all time, I mean, he's not the greatest closer, he's not the greatest scorer, he's not the greatest finisher in the finals.
Yeah.
He doesn't have the greatest commercial. He absolutely does not have the greatest hairline. I don't know if that is his hairline or what's happening. But you have to put LeBron on a different pedestal. Now, I laid out some facts. Where do you stand?
Couple things. First off, I think the hyperbaric chamber does influence hair follicle performance. So I feel, and red wine. So I think his regimen is working on multiple fronts. He reminds me a lot of Tom Brady in terms of the era in which he came into the GOAT conversation, when the way people think about nutrition and training and recovery has really matured to the next level. So like Tom Brady, arguably the GOAT in the NFL conversation, I think LeBron may have a longer relevance now. So to me, he's back in the conversation because he's had 4 championships. If he can win 2 more in the next 5 years, which is a big question, but if he does win 2 more in the next 5 years, then he's won as many championships as Jordan did. And there's everything else that you're talking about. And he was able to do this towards the tail end of his career, where to me, his type of game ages better because he is more of a distributor, more of someone who makes his teammates better, although that's frequently the knock on him, aka also known as Danny Green, you got to hit that shot. Also known as J.R. Smith, what are you doing?
Daniel Marshall.
J.R. Smith, what are you doing with the ball? So, I just was thinking, what would Jordan have done to either Danny Green or J.R. Smith?
Punched him in the face.
Probably, which is another reason why I'm pulling for LeBron. So, for me, LeBron's in the conversation, but he's not at Jordan's level, because when Jordan competed at the heights, nobody could beat him. And LeBron demonstrated that he could be beaten. Granted, he didn't always have the best supporting cast, but he also lost championships in Miami that Jordan backers would say that Jordan never would have lost with that type of supporting cast. Who knows? That's why we play the games. But for me, I want to see what LeBron does in the capstone era of his career. Assuming he still has the fire in the belly coming out of the bubble, if he could pull another 1 or 2 together, then I think it's a real argument. Right now, he's in the conversation because people are in a barbershop or they're a bar, they're bored, they want to talk about it. So you got to say LeBron versus Jordan. He gets another chip or 2. I may be swayed. So I could be moved. I could be moved.
Okay, so let's say he retires. You're Jordan it's hard to knock off the pedestal. That's fine.
Yeah.
Let's say, how about I don't want the GOAT? I don't want him to be the GOAT.
Yeah.
And he retires tomorrow. I think he has, if Bill Russell is the MVP award, the finals MVP, then I believe it's time that LeBron James should be the logo.
Whoa. This is it. You dropped it right there. That was the hot take. This is the idea.
I think if the problem is that LeBron's closing record in the finals, that's what you're looking at. He's not the ultimate closer. Mm-hmm. Jerry West is the logo.
Yeah.
Jerry West, most outstanding player in college on the losing team. Mm-hmm. Jerry West, multiple, I think it's 8 finals. I thought it was 9. 1 championship.
Yeah.
Great player in the finals, but could never get over the top. Mm-hmm. If you compare triple doubles, 3-pointers, steals, assists, LeBron is tops everywhere. Mm-hmm. 17 NBA seasons to his 14, 16 All-Stars to the 14, 4 MVPs to Jerry West 0, Finals MVPs 4-1, mm-hmm. and he was Jerry West, another Finals MVP on a losing team. So he's a gamer. Mm-hmm. So I'll give you the GOAT. Mm-hmm. The game has evolved. Make LeBron the logo. Now, I said that to my mom, and she was mad.
Really?
As an LA gal, as an LA mom, she said, no way, Kobe should be the logo.
Wow. Okay.
But I'm not going to introduce that. I'm just letting you know.
Yeah.
LeBron is never able to knock Jordan off his pedestal. He's got terrible Sprite commercials. He's never going to be, you never dream.
Although I enjoyed what's called the shop, right? The shop.
The shop. Oh yeah, Jordan, LeBron, in terms of his production chops, it's well beyond Jordan.
There's more coming too, I think.
Yeah. So I'm just saying, I'll give you this now.
Yeah.
But I'm saying if he retires today, the impact at LeBron, where you have different superstars trying to team up together, where players are being more vocal, where LeBron, I feel, is setting a tone, where people will say, no one wants to play with LeBron, but people seem to want to play with LeBron.
Yeah.
Where he's making a massive impact on Get Out the Vote, where he's making an impact in Hollywood, where he's making an impact in starting a school in Akron. LeBron should be the logo.
And I like the argument that the logo is dated, and it's also the logo is #2white, even though it's not technically Jerry West. You were telling me this too, right? Like it's they don't admit.
They will not admit to the fact that it is Jerry West. And it is. And Jerry West to this day, he would say that it's not me.
Yeah.
But I think it was a 2016, 2017 interview. He said, yeah, it'd be great if I actually got something out of the logo. Well, so I love Jerry. I think he's a gamer. Jerry, and I know we had a hot take in the Last Dance show where I threw out that Jerry Krause may be the GOAT when it comes to GMs.
Yeah.
And that's it. We need to have a Jerry off between West and Krause. So Jerry has had an impact broadly on the NBA, especially in the front office, being tied to the Memphis teams that started to play well, the Clippers, the Lakers, Golden State. But I just want to throw just chum in the water.
Yeah.
Because I don't think I'm ever going to be able to sway. I think you're wearing Jordan 1s right now as we're having this.
Always. I don't sleep in them.
I can see your Nike swag right now.
No doubt. No
Under
doubt.
Armour.
Yeah. Forget about that. Yeah. I like the idea of contemporizing the logo. Make it modern, make it relevant for the 21st century. I'd be curious what the artist's rendition would look like, because you talking about Jumpman made me think about just that iconic icon of Jordan. Yeah, because what's kind of cool about the current logo is that it's definitely got like little guy ball skills kind of movement to it. And I don't know if you want LeBron like thunder dunking on you as the brand of what the NBA as a brand is trying to do. So I think
we have him in a triple threat for 20 seconds just holding the ball.
Yeah, shuffling the puppies. Yeah. I want to see him getting back on defense. I want to see hands up. I want to see a good defensive position.
Hands down, man down.
Yeah, exactly. But I like that idea, and actually, your mom's take is an interesting one too. I'm in favor of a change here. I'm still waiting for my Harriet Tubman $20 bills to kick in, so I'd say let's do something.
Next Tuesday will determine whether or not that happens. But keep going.
Exactly. But yeah, I'd be open to it. I wonder now with AI, not Allen Iverson, with artificial intelligence and machine learning, could you amalgamate all of the NBA players and their crazy? Could you have a little bit of Skyhook, a little bit of Thunder Dan Marley going strong to the lane?
Thunder Dan, it's like, you gotta have
a little John Starks.
Oh my gosh,
coming in strong, but assuming you had to go based on an individual, and assuming you had to make it look cool, he's also, I think, despite the fact that he got a little bit of pushback based on some of his activity in the bubble, I think he's certainly established himself with the current class of the NBA. And it'd be interesting to see if he could emulate Kobe a little bit in terms of his mentorship in the next phase of his career. Because this can't happen tomorrow. Like, he isn't. I would think you got to get somebody. It would be easier to get somebody like Michael because he's already out of the game, but you can't do Michael because that logo and Jordan is Jordan.
The yellow eyes. We're worried about him.
Crying. He might be. Could the logo be crying? I don't know. It's an interesting take. I think we need to. So, is there like a hashtag for this? If people want to get activated against this, they want to get LeBron on the logo. Where do they go? Have you started a Kickstarter? What's going on with all this?
I'm just sharing thoughts with our millions of listeners.
All right, so come at us. It's at Running It Back FM on Twitter. We want to hear from you. RunningItBack.fm is our website. LeBron, is he the GOAT? Maybe not yet, but should he be the logo? At least one of your eminent hosts here, Tarlin Ray, is a big believer in the next gen model. Also, do you have any artists' renditions? I want like a concept car of what
that's
the
what
logo...
we're crowdsourcing. We're starting the movement.
Okay, so we'll retweet you if you create this logo for us. There's plenty of. Hit us up on LinkedIn. We're ready to activate against this turning of the page. LeBron, the fact that he's in the conversation, you got to give him a lot of credit. I liked your pantheon to the point that we'll allow it to be entered into our permanent record as Running It Back's top 4.
Make it happen.
Make it happen. Any final thoughts, closing remarks, Tarlin?
It is our responsibility to figure out how to cover a new sport, and we promise that our next show will cover something new.
Yeah.
Could be the Masters.
Yeah.
Tiger painfully finishing last in most tournaments, but I think he's going to compete the Masters.
Yeah. And there's if we did want to run it back to when he first won and some of the history of the Masters, that gets a little.
Bought my first red shirt in '98.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'll wear my Jordans. You'll wear your red shirt. We'll run it back in another direction that isn't the NBA, but we wanted to give the GOAT conversation its due. One more. Charlie's got one more thing.
Coming up with Halloween, he's on a red shirt. I was 6 straight years, no imagination. Tiger Woods was an easy costume, and then the events happened, and it was not
right, exactly. Because suddenly,
and then also to be walking around with like a golf club, people thought that was a little dangerous. But anyways,
right.
Tiger's back. We'll
Tiger's back. You may need to shave. You made it. We'll see. Halloween plans are pretty modest this year, anyway. But you still got it in you if you want to go back to the well on Tiger. We haven't had a conversation about that, and the Masters are coming in November. So maybe that is where we go next. Maybe we go back to football. We're going to show that we got some range. We're like a 5-tool player. We're like the Mookie Betts of lesson learned sports podcasts. So get used to us. Tarlin, always a pleasure. Thank you again for your erudition. And for our listeners, thanks as always for having some fun with us. We'll be back again soon on Running It Back.